So welcome everybody. I'm super excited to get to kick off the Conan 2.0. For those of you who haven't been following, it was officially released last week. And we are super excited. Huge shout out to the team, little round of applause. As much as Diego is the hero, he's not the only one. We got Carlos, William, and David who are online with us. And I'm sure there's a few others from the team that are listening. So I'm going to be presenting. Diego will be joining me today, and brief little round of introduction for those of you who might be joining us for the first time. My name is Christopher McArthur. I'm a former Conan user, longtime contributor. I was a member of the tribe, and when I wrote these introductions, I decided to give myself a little quote. I've been opening enterprise issues for Conan for over 3 years now. I am always been a thorn in Diego's side. You can see me asking questions like backing up offline builds and sources of recipes and packages, because that's the type of thing you need to do as an enterprise developer. And now that I'm the Conan developer advocate, I will promise all of you to continue being a thorn in their side, with much affection, of course. So Diego, I'll let you do your own introduction.
Well, mine is easy. Yeah, I just copied yours and adapted a little bit. I basically been resolving enterprise issues for Conan for, well, actually a bit more than 6 years. I think Conan is now like 7 years. And I've been 6 years at JFrog leading the Conan team, and yeah, trying to help the community with this tool.
So, what is Conan? If you're new and you've heard of Conan, maybe you're not too sure with the familiarities of what it's supposed to do. So, Conan is a C and C++ package manager, and its role is to make it easy to install dependencies. So Conan install requires speed log, and you should be able to get up and running. How is Conan different? It enables you to build and distribute binaries. And that's one of the key focuses that it has that delineates it from the other ones. We offer JFrog's Conan Center. There are over 1,500 open source projects with over 100 configurations, different operating systems, compilers, architectures, and they're all being created to help accelerate open source. So Conan is MIT licensed. It's distributed or decentralized, depending how you look at it. There's one client to many servers. That's the architecture of it. It's scalable, flexible. Really, with your licky water back there, man. Oh, the dog today. And it supports all kinds of different platforms. CMake, Meson, Auto Tools, and it's any platform. So Windows, Linux, Mac, but you can also do Android, iOS, WebOS if you're interested in that. And it's more than just CMake. So it really gives you a framework to build your CI/CD around. So a Conan file, and this is what we call a recipe. You can see our cute little froggy in the bottom right-hand corner. So here we have a small example of a project math. So it has a class, a name, a version. There's a source method. That's how you get the sources, a build, and a package. So if you do git clone, you go into your math directory, and you do Conan create, you can take that recipe and you can create math binaries. So with Conan 2.0's launch, we have completely revamped the documentation. And if you want a hands-on tutorial for how to do this yourself, the best place to start is going to be this section here. So if you go to docs.conan.io, you can go on the tutorial section and you'll be able to follow along with this. So why would you, Okay, we're good. So why would you pick Conan? So the key difference between Conan and the other package managers is that focus on binaries that I mentioned earlier. So being able to create a package that can be reused across multiple teams throughout your organization. And the whole point of doing this is to enable flexibility and scalability, right? So it's a framework for doing DevOps and package management in a very enterprise-ready manner. So with Conan, you can model platform configurations and the linkage between your libraries. And this will allow you to know which branch of your graph you need to rebuild. And it can save you so much time and money being able to do this. So one of the common problems that I see all the time as C++ developers, most of us are behind on the latest standard. And as nerds, we always want to have the latest and greatest tools and technology. So let's say you have a code base with a build environment validation, and you produce an app. You ship a product to your customers, and that's how you get paid every day. So that build environment usually has a configuration, right? In this case, we're doing GCC 7 with C++ 11. And what we really want to get to is being able to have GCC 7 with C++ 11 and GCC 12 with C++ 20, right? And going through the same pipeline, we're able to build our app for our LTS, which is supporting our customers, but also current. So the current future of development that we're trying to aim for and we're trying to support. So with that out of the way, what's new in Conan 2.0? I think that's what you're all here for, and that's what we're most excited for. So everything is new. There's been 5 years without a breaking change. Stability has been amazing on this with the release format that we've been doing. And we're very excited to introduce some of these new changes. So 60% of the code base is new and about 20% is backports. And the reason for all of this is so there's a compatible syntax between 1.x and 2.0. So you'll be able to upgrade from the latest and greatest of 1.x to 2.0 with some small changes to your workflow alongside of it. But all of your rest, no, Google. Not too many. So the recipes, which are the most important part of all of this, those have that compatible syntax. So you'll be able to use those same recipes for both 1.x and 2.0 as you move along.
And same server. You can put binaries for both 1 and 2 in the same server at the same time. Perfect.
So this is a page that I've been working on, what to expect. So on the left-hand side are some of the breaking changes that have gone through with Conan 2.0. We're not going to look at those too much. Today, we're going to be focusing on the right-hand side, and we got a few things in bold. We got graphs, extensions, and lock files, just to name a few. The key thing to highlight here is everything is on the documentation website for the most part. So if you want to learn more information about all these things, the docs are going to be your best friend. So why have we done this? That's one of the big questions, is why would we make all these changes? And it's because we've been listening. Usage and feedback is one of the key drivers to everything that's been going on. We usually get about around 800,000 downloads every single month from PyPy. And Conan is designated as one of the most critical projects. That's the top 1% of downloaded projects in Python. So the C++ package manager is top 1% in Python. I always find that amusing. And when I snagged the screenshot for the PyPy stats, you can see there was 840. So that's an exceptional number of people decided to jump on and try out Conan 2.0 for the first time. We also have Slack, which we're the second most active channel. And of course, being open source, we're available on GitHub. And you can see the number of contributions in terms of pull requests have been growing year over year. And we hit over 5,000 last year, which is absolutely amazing. Now, this is where the team gets the most round of applause. The support that we do. So we get around 2,000 issues every single year on GitHub. We do over 100 hours of voice and video calls and support for customers, users, and we really try to help them as much as possible. And there's direct support as well, which is harder to track. So Slack, we get messages almost daily asking questions, and you can see that from our Slack communities activity as well. And last but not least, there are a ton of other enterprise users. We've launched the Tribe to help us define Conan 2.0. So you can see here, we got some amazing companies like Bose, TomTom, Continental, just to name a few. And they've been helping us finalize some of the designs for 2.0. Anything you'd like to add about the introduction so far, Diego?
No, there are a few questions on the chat. I'm trying to respond them regarding the compatibility of the commands and everything, but I think it's good, so you can keep moving.
So we are going to be going over some of those feature highlights today. So we have a binary and graph we're going to be going over some of the extensions and custom commands, and we're going to be doing reproducibility with lock files. These are just some of the big features that are coming out, but by no means all of them. So our first lesson is going to be learning to fly. And C and C++ are challenging. So Conan was first launched in 2016. That's over 7 years ago now. And since there, Conan has seen significant growth. So with 2.0, the new documentation has been completely rewritten. So there's a hands-on tutorial, there is better, well-organized API references, and there's the newly structured examples, which are absolutely breathtaking. As a Conan user, I'm super excited to actually use these. They're so helpful. And oh, you were going to say something, Diego?
Oh yeah, it's basically, and it's still ongoing work. So we will be focusing on the documentation, on improving the documentation. There are still missing parts, and we know it. But the documentation will in the following months, we will keep adding new things, new sections. We will try to advertise them and share them with you, but there are important things like the continuous integration and other parts that are missing. And we will be adding them soon. So keep tuned.
Awesome. So one of the things that we had to do for C and C++ is modeling build time only dependencies. So when you have build time dependencies, these are things like tooling requirements, test requirements. They don't necessarily want to impact the final binaries themselves. So for this, we're introducing inside of our requires the notion of traits. So there's going to be requirement traits and package types that are going to get added. And this is going to help you define the interactions between your libraries so that Conan can more intuitively and more informedly make decisions around them. And so one of these things is supporting direct and transitive dependencies. So you can see here we have a cute little example. We have a game that requires an engine that requires math. So the game has a direct requirement. So it does self requires engine. And then we have our engine recipe that has a requirement to math. When Conan builds the graph for game specifically, it'll include that transitive requirement to math. And now, depending if these are shared, static, header only, it may decide to include math or it'll exclude math depending on what's needed to build game. And all of this is configured with the requirement traits and the package types. So the dependency graph can now allow you to do correct linkage requirements, correct header visibility, private and hidden dependencies, and so much more. Diego gave an amazing talk at ACCU last year where he went over this in depth for a whole hour. And that should really give you a good starter pack. If this is the piece of information that you need more on, it's going to be in that talk. So one of the highlights is it works between different build systems as well. And there's a compatible requires syntax between 1.x and 2.0. So again, you can take advantage of that now as you build out your 2.0 pipelines. So all of this is to make Conan 2.0 way more efficient. So fetching only the binaries that is needed to build and run. So there's a new modes for package IDs. And these are going to change some of the defaults and they do not collide with the 1.x. So that's how your binaries can live in the same server, which is fantastic. So being able to skip parts of the graph to do downloads is absolutely amazing. And it'll allow you to better manage those dependencies. So the new graph model, requirement traits, and package types, along with package ID modes, are going to really change the game for you guys. Is there anything you wanted to add for that section, Diego?
No, I'm just typing also answers on the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much for following that one.
Yeah, I think it's very important here in the graph model that in 2.0, the graph will always be complete. It will always include all the transitive dependencies, including tool requires, test requires, because this was a very special pain point in Conan 1. For example, for log files, you computed a log file and the log file was not locking everything because the dependencies were not there because they were skipped. So Conan 2.0 is building the whole graph, only the recipes. So the binaries, which is the heavy part, can be skipped, so it's still efficient. but the information about the dependency is always complete. And this is super helpful for things like providing continuous integration and these things.
Perfect. Thank you very much for filling that in. So our second lesson today will be repeating yourself. So C++ and DevOps at scale. So with this, we've streamlined more powerful log files, but most importantly, we've improved the CI-oriented tools. So we're going to be introducing extensions as well as custom commands and a stable Python API that's currently released in preview. So the plugins are definitely something we're super excited for. This is going to empower users to do a lot of the things themselves. If you watch Diego's CPPCon talk, this is going to be the death by 1,000 bytes segment that he did. Absolutely good giggles if you need one. So the whole goal here is to provide a framework for users to build the solutions tailored to their own needs. So some of these plugins are going to include the profile checker, the command wrapper, and package signing. But there's much more. There's some of the old ones like hooks, which you're probably already familiar with, but there's other new ones. So I had put a poll out on Twitter. I said, which ones are you most interested in trying? I put deployers, custom commands, profile checkers, and a lot of people picked other and replied to us. So the deployers, which everybody was super excited about, is a flexible way to extract artifacts from the cache. So this will allow you to automate post-Conan tasks. This is things like making an installer, extracting executables, making Docker images. That will be much easier doing it through deployers. So this is no longer in recipes as it was previously done with import syntax. So it's much more scalable. So you can just do Conan config install, and you can install all your own deployers and extensions for them. So to give you an example of what this looks like, we have the compatibility plugin here, for instance. So you can see it's installed under extensions, plugins, compatibility, and it's a simple Python file with one method, compatibility, and it's very easy, just a few arguments to configure. So this one, for instance, comes with a built-in for different CPP SCDs. So if you're trying to do binary compatibility between standards, it's available through this means, and you can tailor this. It's completely opt-in. So if you didn't want this, you can easily replace it and change it for your own logic.
For the compatibility thing is for example, this allowed us to address a long-standing problem. For example, the binary compatibility with CPP-STD, the C++ standard. When you activate or deactivate it, it creates different binaries, but they are binary compatible in most cases. So the default implementation of the compatibility plugin assumes that the different binaries created with different CPP-STD values are binary compatible, and you have the rules there. So that means if for some reason your binary is compiled with CPP-STD 20, are binary incompatible with C++ STD 17, you have control of that. You can go to the compatibility plugin and say, hey, my binary here is not compatible. So it will keep both the efficiency of having to build only one binary with the CPP-STD that you want, and also to manage to control the cases that there might be other incompatibilities and you want to fine control that. So this is one of the different of the use cases, but the typical very requested use case, hey, we have some libraries that are binary compatible between compiler versions. You can put exactly that in your compatibility.py. So these long-standing questions about the binary compatibility, they are addressed with the compatibility plugin.
Perfect. Thank you so much for filling that in, Diego. So along with giving you the tools and choices to help and tailor things to your exact use case, we've also introduced a new Python API. And as I mentioned, it's released as a preview. So the plan is to have no breaking changes in the major version, but we do plan on fine-tuning it in the meantime before we get there. The custom commands are built on top of this Python API, and they allow you to do anything you want. We also have the JSON output. So there is new standardized serialized formats. So the output from the command line can change, but the goal is to provide a stable output from the JSON format so you can build your tooling around Conan. So For the Python API, I decided to snag this graph from one of Diego's past presentations to give you an idea of what they're like. So in 1.x, the Python API was trying to recreate the command line, but this had terrible limitations where you were still locked into the command line, which you were trying to get away from. And for 2.0, we decided to give you one level deeper. So you can do remote search, profile, graph, upload, and you can do things like get the profiles, compute the graph, check the integrity of the binaries before you upload them. And this will allow you to tailor things exactly to your use case in your CI/CD. I used this to do the proof of concept for Conan 2.0 pipeline. If you wanted to have a list of recipes that you wanted to build and you just wanted to read them and build all of them, it's very easy to do it nowadays, which previously it was a lot of work to code that in a shell script or Python script. The custom commands, just as friendly, hopefully. You can import the command and add a markup for the methods you want to add. And this is a simple hello world where you get to just print hello world. If you want to learn more about this, Diego's CPPCon talk, I believe he went over this as well. So that's definitely a great place for it. Is there anything you'd like to add, Diego, before we move on to our third lesson?
Oh, yeah. Custom commands is one of the things that we are most excited about it. Not only because it will help you a lot to be able to automate, like construct high-level tasks with Conan, so Conan becomes like a framework that you can build on top of it, but also because it allows us to do more for you. For example, we had recently some questions about, hey, we are migrating and we need to upgrade our Conan file txt files to Conan file.py. It would be nice to have this automated somehow. I say, hey, this is a custom command. You can do a custom command for this. So we actually, what we did is, okay, let's do it. Let's create a custom command. So we created this repo here that I'm sharing with you. Probably the team will kill me because of sharing this too early. But this is a proof of concept. And we put there a custom command that takes a Conan file.txt and output a Conan file.py. Okay. This is a command that will never land in the Conan code base. It cannot be built in. It's very specific for the migration. And the same will happen for other things. Things, for example, that are related only to Artifactory or to continuous integration, something that is not a Conan command, but is something that Conan users might find very useful. This would be the perfect framework to build these things and to provide these things. So yeah, keep an eye on this repo because they will be adding there more functionality. And yeah, and keep an eye on custom commands because this is one of the things that can improve your workflows a lot.
Now I have to ask, can the community open pull requests and contribute their own custom commands?
Yeah, I suggest opening an issue first and discussing, hey, it is something, the rule will be essentially, if this is something that is useful for the majority of users or for a large part of the users, we will be gladly accepting it. Of course, it is always a trade-off because then we have to maintain it. And there will be more questions. So it depends on the complexity and the value for the users. But yeah, we are definitely looking forward. So we will be providing a bunch of them ourselves first. And probably with those commands, you will be able to see more or less what is the expectation for this repo. And then we can start to build together on top of that. The idea, but the cool thing is that these repos shouldn't be like a central sort of truth. Because custom commands is something that you can manage. You can take my custom command, my custom converter, the Conan file txt to .py converter, and you can tune it. You can change it. You can provide more arguments. You can provide more use cases, whatever, and you can manage your command for you very easily, just forking it, adapting, and you install the commands with Conan config install. So this doesn't aim to be another Conan extension. This is the base for you to create your own Conan commands and your Conan extensions. So yeah, definitely we will accept pull requests, but this is not the idea that it will be centralized exclusively and everything should be there. But the users should use it as an inspiration, as a base for building their workflows and their commands.
It's a good frame of reference for building your own, which is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So our third lesson is building a dam. C++ are trusted by enterprises worldwide. So there are thousands of teams and using Conan and C++ in their workflows from every size to every industry. And we've made every effort to keep that stability. And we're going to continue doing the same thing we did with 1.x with 2.0. So you should have the same thing. I left a comment on my slide that I forgot to remove apparently. So toss it over to Diego with a heart. Is there anything you'd like to add on this one, Diego?
Not especially that. Okay. Probably that I've seen. I'm one of the that does most customers and more users talks, video calls, and engagements, and I've seen things there that you wouldn't believe. Probably you suffer some of them at home, but if you don't, many of your colleagues in other companies, they have very extraordinary, exceptional, weird requirements, processes, policies, and everything. And one of the things, and if you see Chris' presentation, 2.0 is very focused on extensibility, on trying to provide mechanisms for you to do the things that you want. And this one that is going to present Chris now is yet another learning from our users in these enterprises, having their own requirements and stuff, that we want to provide a tool for them to be able to integrate the way they want.
Perfect. Reproducible dependencies and log files. So this is actually something that I've struggled with myself as a Conan user, and the 2.0 log files are huge game changer for being able to do CI/CD. So in this small little example I'm going to lay out for you, we're going to have our game with an engine and our math. And you can see here our requirements are going to be using version ranges. So our game requires engine between 1 and 2, anything between those. And the same is true for our engine. So if we were to now do with Conan 2.0, a Conan install lockout game, we would get our game lock file with math and engine for 1.0. Now, we all have that pesky guy on the math team that we just absolutely delightfully love, who goes and publishes a math 1.1 in the midst of our pull request while we're waiting for our CI/CD. And what we want is to make sure our development is not broken or impeded by somebody else's changes or other improvements that are made in our code base. So if we were to rerun our Conan install for our game with our game lock file now, Conan will correctly resolve the requirements to engine and math, where this previously was not possible with Conan 1.0. So in Conan 1.x, the lock files were the entire graph. And if the graph didn't exactly match, this wouldn't be possible. So with 2.0, this is going to be an absolute game changer for building out CI/CD and having reproducible builds with version ranges. So you give your engineers the flexibility to pick the best libraries you have, all the while making sure your delivery to customers is unimpeded, which is going to be fantastic. And this is the feature I'm most excited to try out personally. So Conan 2.0 lock files, it's one lock file for all your configurations. You can actually mute, they're easily mutable, they're easy to read and understand. It's just a list of versions to pick from for the graph. There are fully restricted and partial restricted modes. They can be merged together. There are going to be manual commands to override and modify the lock files. And it's possible to use the same lock file across multiple projects. The code base for lock files is 10 times shorter, which is just absolutely unbelievable. That a smaller code base is going to give you this much more flexibility and control. And it's a game changer for CI at scale.
I think I talk for probably most of the audience today here. I think one of the things that make us happier is to remove code from a project. And this one makes me especially happy. The log files in Conan 1 is such a big pain. I won't complete the attributes of that. It's a huge pain. The code base is so complicated. so many corner cases, difficult to manage at the user level is challenging, and at the development level in the Conan internal is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It was complicated due to historical reasons. It's difficult. Necessary learning. It was a very necessary learning, but it's complicated. So I'm super happy that we were able to reduce the code base while improving a lot the functionality of the log file. So for me, this is one of the things that will be really a game changer for doing continuous integration. And many of the users that have been struggling with that, we have tests in our code base in the Conan test suite now that they implement like one of the most challenging problems, that you have a graph, you change one package in the middle of the graph, and you want to test how this change integrates in the whole graph with log files, making sure that you log the rest of the graph, except that middle node in the middle of the graph. We have tests for that now in the test suite. So it's not necessarily like a full training like we tried in the past with Conan 1. It's integrated, so it's now a matter of documenting it, making the examples, and writing everything. Probably will be more webinars or something, but this is super exciting to have it like built in and so simple that it's manageable. Now it's manageable.
The lock files that you're talking about, that example and use case is actually a demo you did at CPPCon, and I did at Core C++. So if you're interested, you can go check those other videos out on YouTube's. So welcoming enterprise DevOps for C and C++. So enterprises can be ridiculously high, and the domain specific requirements are exceptionally challenging, right? So continuous integration at scale is critical. And so this goes beyond thinking about package and dependency management. So you usually say programming over time is software engineering, and that's a quote we have from Winters. But we're going to go and say dependency management over time is DevOps. And that's what this whole buzzword is being about. It's being able to pick and choose which packages you're building over time and managing their lifecycle throughout your product's development. So conclusion, we have a new graph, new plugins and extensions, new deployers, new binary compatibility. We have a multi-revision cache, package IDs, lock files, new configuration environment, package and immutability, and so much more. On the docs, there is a what's new section. If you want, you can check that out. There is a very long list of features that have been added, changes that have been made, and it's quite a whirlwind. So more resources. We mentioned ACU talk from Diego. I did not add to this slide, but I have to, is our CPPCon talk that we did as well. We have a blog post. If you're looking for a technical walkthrough of a lot of the features and some more details over what we did today, blog.conan.io is going to be your good first place to go. If you want to get more hands-on, the tutorial section is going to be absolutely fantastic for you. And of course, if you have questions, you can open them up on GitHub on the main Conan repo. You can ask your questions there as well. That's the best place if you want like official answers. If you have small questions, technical questions, you want feedback on something you're working on, I highly recommend the Slack channel. There are a ton of active users and they're always helping each other, and it's amazing to see them. And if you want to keep up to date, we've been making an effort to post more on Twitter. So if you want, you can get more news there as well. So thank you very much. And you can go right now and do pip install Conan, and it'll be version 2. Absolutely amazing. Is there anything you would like to add, Diego?
I'm responding questions here on the chat. So yeah, probably I don't know if we want to give them the users the word so they can do questions. What is planned now, Chris?
The Q&A. I see there's one in the Q&A. So if I click the answer live button, it should share the question with you guys. So will there be a recording of the webinar available? Yes. We plan to post this on YouTube. We haven't decided where exactly. It'll either be on JFrog YouTube channel or perhaps somewhere else. But when it does get uploaded, we will make sure to share it out on social media, on Slack as well.
Yeah, And sorry, and to all the attendees, you will receive the recording in 24 hours.
Ah, perfect. Thank you. Even better, even easier.
There are a couple of questions here in the chat that I think they are interesting. For example, regarding the CMake Conan integration, we didn't upgrade it yet, but it is in our backlog. So now we are kind of finalizing the stabilization of Conan, trying to finalize the stabilization of Conan Center, the migration of the recipes of Conan Center to be ready for Conan 2.0, to polish some UX things. But the CMake Conan integration is something that will be next. It doesn't mean that it will be just identical to what it is today in Conan 1x, but we know that this is a use case and you want to have some CMake integration, like calling Conan from CMake. So we will be investigating this, proposing solutions, trying to come up with something that is useful and allows to basically solve the same problem. Might not be exactly the same solution, but the idea is that it solves also the same problem. Also, the question from Jerome about concurrent access to the Conan cache. The Conan cache got several major improvements in Conan 2, specifically the ability to host multiple revisions in the cache. Okay? Giving it concurrent access is also on the roadmap. It will probably not be as prioritized as the CMake Conan integration, for example, because it's a performance. It's a non-functional requirement. It's basically about performance and resources. So it might wait a little bit if you want to do multiple parallel jobs. Like in CI, you can use parallel different caches, and you might rely on the file download cache to be a bit more performant, especially on the server. And we will eventually, it's what we call the 2.x roadmap. So making the Conan cache concurrent is in the Conan is in the 2x roadmap as well. Alberto Rodriguez is asking about the CMake and CMake preset JSON. Conan, the CMake toolchain, is already creating CMake presets, and Conan 2.0 in our documentation in the tutorial, if you're using CMake like 3.23 or 3.22 at least, you can use presets. You type Conan install, and Conan will generate preset files for you. You can call them CMake presets and the name of the preset, and it will work. It's in the tutorial. So as Chris said, we strongly recommend following the tutorial, checking that, because the presets is already there. You can do it right now. There are questions, Chris, about the C3I status. Maybe you want to address those? When it's going to be summarized, the pull request, the maintenance for Conan Center.
So a couple of our core contributors to Conan Center have been asking about Conan Center. So for those of you who aren't aware, that's our central repository for all the packages, as I mentioned earlier. That has been under maintenance mode. So as William mentioned in the chat, there are packages that were broken with V2, and we're running internal jobs trying to make sure those are running. And we're hoping to open it back up by the end of the week. So fingers crossed, all of the hardship should be behind us, and it's just the final tweaking to make sure everything's ready. As you know, building C++ takes time, and the number of configurations we do just multiplies that. So it's slowly unrolling. We do have some from Q&A. So from Ravi, we have, is the Conan 2.0 tutorial and documentation already up? Yes, it is. So if you go to docs.conan.io, you'll be taken to that 2.0. Hopefully you can see my screen and it's up here, and you can use that and rely on that as well. We have another one. For example, on lock files, is there going to be more content added? Yes, yes, and yes. The documentation is one of those places where we want to put a lot of time and effort, and describing CI/CD with Conan is going to be one of the most important things, and it's definitely on the plan in the short term. We have another one. Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to address the question by Timur about is necessary to upgrade server Artifactory for Conan 2.0. And the answer is no. You can use Conan 2.0 with previous server versions of the server and Artifactory, minus one minor bug related to the Conan list. When you are listing binaries in the server, there was a 500 internal error exception that has been fixed in Artifactory 752. Okay, but for typical upload, install, and normal operation with Conan, you can use previous versions of Artifactory with Conan 2.0 without any problem. And also a question that is related also is the recipes, the same recipe might be exactly the same for Conan 1 and Conan 2, but the binaries are different for Conan 1 and Conan 2 because the package IDs, the computation of the package ID has changed. This is also managed. So when you are listing the binaries in Conan 1, it will list you only the binaries built and compatible with Conan 1. And when you do the Conan list binaries with Conan 2 client, it will only give you the binaries for Conan 2.0. So even if they are hosted in the same server, in the same repo. Okay, so this is already prepared. So you can create binaries with Conan 2.0 and they will not conflict, they will not interfere in any way with binaries with the Conan 1, even if they are in the same repo, exactly in the same place.
So looking at my Slack conversations, we were running 743 for Conan Center while doing a lot of the development for Conan 2.0. So almost all of the functionality, even in that previous version, was available. Just to give you a frame of reference. We have more questions. So from an anonymous attendee, ooh, spooky. Is there a video that demonstrates how to use our framework? I'm not too sure what you're looking for specifically in terms of framework. For custom commands, Diego's talk at CPPCon 2022 is going to be a good reference. He did go over the custom commands, and that'll be an easy one to watch. It should be at the end of the video, if I'm not mistaken. We also have, will the training in the JFrog Academy be updated? I'm not sure, maybe. Probably not.
Not at the moment for sure. So what we did here is creating these videos takes a huge effort, and they also become outdated. So we did that effort for Conan 1, and now those videos are outdated. So our focus here, what we did is we converted those training into the tutorial in the docs. So if you go to the docs, the 2.0 docs, the tutorial there is a hands-on. It's exactly the same experience that the Academy was providing. It's exercises with code that you can execute. You will see the output, the exact commands that you need to type, the output that you will get, incremental lessons teaching you the concepts, why things are done, how to do things, and the whole tutorial section, which is large. You can run it from the beginning to the end as you would run the Academy. So we will first build the knowledge and build the hands-on tutorial in the docs. And maybe by the end of the year, something like that, if things are way stable and there is still enough demand for video format, then we might consider to go and modernize the videos for the Academy. But it will be probably just a parallel video format of the tutorial in the docs.
Perfect. I'm sorry to Harold, your question is very long, so I'm avoiding it at the moment, but if we have time, I will get to it. Renee asked, will there be a Conan 1 Python API to Conan 2 migration/translation reference? So if you go to the Conan 1 docs, there is a Conan migration guide to 2.0, and this should have a pretty detailed, in-depth version of everything you need to know to make that migration, especially in terms of the recipes. So I hope this is going to be a good reference. There are definitely pieces of this that are missing. My gripe when I was learning it is the command lines. Not all the commands are documented in the, not all the command line changes are documented. But if you see anything missing, feel free to open up a pull request, open up an issue, and we'll try to add it in as much as possible. Again, 80% of the code base is different. So having the documentation for all of that is going to be something that comes over a little bit of time. There's 5 years of Conan 1 docs that need to be migrated, and that's not going to happen overnight, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I might give some hints to Harald regarding the migration. Definitely, when you are doing a major upgrade of something, it takes some effort. So my recommendation there would be to be as prepared as possible, little by little, step by step in Conan 1. Do not even propose, hey, let's upgrade to 2.0. No, don't do it. There will be time. Okay, there will be time because community needs to migrate. We need to finalize the migration of Conan Center as well. So the idea is to become as ready as possible in Conan 1 by doing incremental changes. Like, for example, hey, let's make sure that we are using CMake depths instead of the legacy CMake time package generator. And that's an effort. That's an effort that can go incrementally from the top dependencies to the bottom one with small batches of effort. It doesn't need to be a huge investment in the, hey, let's stop everything and for the next 2 months, just do this. And being prepared with the recipes and having the recipes ready for 2.0 is probably, I don't know, 80% of the effort. The command line has changed. Yes, it has changed. But at the end of the day, it is a Conan create. Conan create dot still works. Conan install dot still works. Conan log create still works. So the format of the log file might be different, but the concepts are not that different. It's install, create, the inspect is there, slightly changed. The search has been mapped to Conan list, but on the other hand, also the commands are way more powerful. So the way that the revisions are listed, the package IDs are listed, and the JSON output and everything is much better compared. So yeah, the command might have changed, but changing that on a pipeline is not a huge effort. It's not like having all the recipes prepared. So my recommendation clearly is working on one, make sure that the recipes are as updated as possible, as 2.0 ready as possible with the migration guide and with the syntax and everything. And then the last mile, at some point, if you have we really want to use the log files, or these custom commands will be a framework that we can leverage and that will be really worth, then there is a value proposition for management. Hey, we have this, we will be able to scale better, we will be able to build more efficiently our products to use less continuous integration power. We will save time and money if we migrate this, because the log file and the CI is more efficient in 2.0, and then we can use a few weeks to make sure that the pipeline and the commands and everything is migrated correctly.
Perfect. I will probably cut that and post it on Twitter as a beautiful description. So we had a couple questions. I saw one about the Conan cheat sheet. There is a task in my calendar to work on it. It's scheduled in 2 weeks from now because we've been exceptionally busy with the Conan 2.0 launch, but we are definitely planning on working on it. There have been questions about Bazel support. Julius answered those, thank you. We do have a few more minutes, so I'll try to answer 1 or 2 more questions. Is there an idea where to store new lock files? Will Artifactory be able to store the lock files together with the binaries? So usually these lock files are something you would check into in your source code. So these usually live alongside your project.
But there is a word that you have to be careful there, because committing things to the source, it also creates new commits. If you create new commits, it might change also your SCM, it might change your recipe revision. So depending, if it is a consumer project, if it is your final application that you are building with Conan install and making the dependencies, you can perfectly put the Conan, the log file there. Okay. For someone in the middle of the graph, you need to check which approach you are using for revisions, and you want to check that your log file is not affecting that. Otherwise, probably log files, the greatest thing about it is that only with one file you can manage tons of things, all the configuration, everything. So managing that is way easier than in the past. We have also started experimenting with putting the log files inside the recipes in the server. Okay, something similar to the shrink wrap in npm. If anyone knows npm, the shrink wrap JSON, which is the reflect of the log file in npm log file, it's possible to do the same. It's an experiment, and it is something that we will be probably something for the next year. In the meantime, probably having a Git repo that you put the log files there in a branch that follows the convention of the pull request or of the flow that you are processing at the moment, probably is the best approach. It's a little bit easier to manage that for developers than putting the log files in a server repo that you need to download and upload.
In GitHub Actions, you can upload artifacts and then it stays across the build. That's been my solution for 1.x, but
oh yeah, exactly. You can also leverage the CI mechanisms, but if you want to, let's say, store it somewhere that is permanent there outside of the CI, probably a Git repo is a bit more convenient than a server repo.
It's a very good call. So you have two options depending on your different workflows.
Jackie is asking about if there are features that are not ported to 2.0. And yes, I think there are reflected there in the migration guide. Something like the imports. Imports doesn't exist anymore in 2.0, but you can already migrate to something that makes sense in Conan 1, that is the generate. So whatever imports is executing, you can write that in a generate method with more control than the imports. Okay, imports was very, let's say, restricted. So whenever you wanted to do something outside of the beaten path with the imports, it was not possible. While in the generate method, you can do whatever you want. The copy that you can do or the gathering of information that you can do is way more. So you can already write alternatives in Conan 1 that will replace things like the imports, and those things will move into 2.0 without problems. And also in 2.0, they have replacements or better alternatives like deployers. So deployers is a substitute, a better substitute for the imports in Conan 1. But yeah, Conan 2 doesn't have imports anymore. All the legacy generators like CMake find package or CMake paths, they have been removed in Conan 2 as well.
Almost all of the features I talked about today are not ported to 1.x. So all the new features are exclusive to 2.0. The compatibility is really between the actual recipes themselves. So there's a syntax that you can use for the same recipes in both, but the features that are added in 2.0 are going to be exclusively there. And some of them are not possible to backport. I don't think any of them would be. So changes to the graph, for instance, can't be backported. So hopefully that answers your question.
Alessandro is asking about another cache feature, which is the retention. And this we provided in the Conan database, the Conan cache database that we have regions. There is a field that is the least recently used timestamp. Okay, so there is some infrastructure already provided there to be able to implement the cache retention. So the idea, this is also a Conan 2x roadmap feature. Being able to say, Conan cache clean everything that hasn't been used in the last 4 weeks, for example. And yeah, now we have the right infrastructure to develop that. And it's just a matter of prioritizing. So I think that we will see this feature landing in probably, I don't know, in this next 6 months or something like that. Not urgent, of course, this is not like a critical, it's also a performance thing. But it is there, it's in the backlog.
There are a lot of things on the 2.x roadmap. And the team is in the process of trying to figure out a priority list. So one of the things that I always ask people to be mindful of is the team is limited in size, and there's only so much we can do at once. There's like 1,000,001 things we want to do. I have my own list that I'm pushing for myself because I know other people like me could benefit from them. But we try to make the tough decisions, unfortunately, for what's best for everybody. And if we don't get to the features you're asking for right away, just be mindful that we're listening to a lot of people, right? There's tens of thousands of users using Conan every single day. And making the right decision for everybody is what we try to do. So just be mindful, be patient with us. We're going to get there, but it's going to take some time.
We totally feel the pain when you ask for CMake Conan, something we know it. And we know that you think for you is kind of critical, but maybe this is critical for a 10% of the user base. And there is something more critical for a 20% of the user base. That means maybe not a thing for you, but might be a thing for them. And sometimes your requirements are not even less prioritized than others. They are contradicting other user requirements. So say, hey team, Conan team, your package ID is too restrictive. Is asking missing binaries all the time. And other team, hey, your package ID is too relaxed. It should be more restrictive. And okay, so at the end of the day, we try to provide means so you are able to configure that. But yeah, someone is asking, you need to check in the 2.0 roadmap. You can check the 2.x milestone in GitHub. This is where we put the things. So if you go to milestones in GitHub, then you see there how we prioritize. So the 2x roadmap is basically the backlog of relatively important features for the following months. But you can also see what is the next minor? What is the next patch that we already prepared there? You can see there are already 34 issues closed there. So this will be probably this week or beginning of the next week. You can see the next minor 2.1, and you can see the midterm roadmap like 2.x.
Get back to work. Thank you, Paul. You are amazing.
Yes, Paul. We will right now. We will close the call, and we will get back to those 3 tickets in 201.
Yeah, you guys aren't allowed to go to sleep. For those of you who are joining us from Australia that I can see that are online, thank you so much for staying up late. Diego is up late as well, working late, and I woke up early. So we have the 4 corners of the earth covered, which is fantastic. So with that, I know we didn't get to all the questions, and I'm sorry. We're going to wrap up the call here. Thank you guys so much for joining and asking your questions. This has been super helpful for everybody, I'm sure. If you have any more questions, Twitter, GitHub, Slack are great places. So I really hope you guys appreciate this and you join us for the next one.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to have you all here today.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good afternoon, evening. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
Bye.